I don't so much identify with present-day channels that have some entity, you know. I don't cast aspersions on that when it's authentic at all.
Good day, my friends. Oh, we are most pleased to be in your lights.
I do feel I connect to the universal.
Well, we lived about 1,200 years ago by your time in a small village in northern China.
The more I get carried away, the more I open up into this, the more I feel like I am an individuation of God in human form, letting more and more of that awakenedness and realization pour through me. And as it pours through me, the language picks up faster and faster. I'm grabbing at hunks of sentences and metaphors and images popping to me. I'm sort of like clairvoyantly seeing all these images.
We counseled persons who had, well, both physical and emotional problems. And we prescribed herbs, and we did some therapy with them.
But that there's something larger, a presence pushing to come through this person. And that presence is not just that person.
To help people understand their past lives, their soul's purpose, how they may enrich their living with spiritual principles in everyday life.
We individual human beings have been kept down so long by government, by authorities, by churches, by science, and told, you're only this, you're only this, you're only this. The bottom line of all channeling for me is no, we are capable of channeling, of accessing the universal. There can be danger in whom you connect to in the channeling process, and there can be danger in your own psychological strengths. Many people have the will to believe. I have the will to believe. Skeptics have the will to disbelieve. And in parapsychology, there's two camps, the sheeps and the goats. The goats are those that don't believe. The sheep are those that tend to believe. For me, the ultimate channeling is to channel God, the universal creator, creation, being, mother, father, as Lazarus says, God, goddess, all that is. I think we're capable of connecting with all that is.
As you incorporate more of the higher teachings into your understanding, then you're also able to teach others. So there must be spreading across the planet this consciousness of spirituality, of hope, and of creating miracles.
Heaven is within us, and that we are potentially all channels in that we are all able to connect to universal heart and mind and wisdom and energy and be representatives of our Creator.
Chicago is the setting for our next story. With its colorful history, there is more to be found on the dark Chicago streets than booming nightlife. And many of Chicago's residents have felt the eerie presence of something more than meets the eye.
Today we're going to take a look at a different side of Chicago, its sordid history, that which is filled with cemeteries, murders, and ghosts. People claim to see and feel ghosts. But ghost hunters are becoming much more scientific about the spirit world. And president of the Ghost Research Society, Dale Kaczmarek, shows us how.
These devices will pick up that disturbance, and then we can try other equipment like our cameras and tape recorders and so forth. Basically what this does is it picks up static electricity discharges in a given location. Another DOS meter, which doesn't give an audible signal, but actually gives LED lights. We have a Geiger counter out here.
One photo taken by Dale at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery shows this translucent apparition of a woman sitting on a tombstone. We're here today to find out why so many people around the Chicagoland area travel to this particular cemetery in search of ghosts.
If you look at the historical significance of the area around here and the plots that they had, their names are on all the plots. The Fultons, the Wheelers, they all came from the old country, from Germany. So I assume that many of these people that are buried in here knew one another, and perhaps they're still calling their friends even after death. There have been reports within the cemetery, down this main trail, as you walk into the cemetery, what appears to be a woman, sometimes dressed in a white gown or a wedding gown or a bridal gown of some kind, holding a baby in her arms. We know that through historical records, it belongs to D.W. Rogers. There was one recording which I had heard a number of years ago. Somebody had recorded not too far, 5 or 10 feet away from this main gate here, a sound of somebody calling Minna, Minna, sort of wailing in the wind. And there is a gravesite in here with that name, that first name of Minna. The dead don't rest too easily out here at Bachelor's Grove because of all the sacrifice and the things that have went on here in the past. It acts as like a battery, charging up this area to a point that eventually it discharges in a way through manifestations, through spirits, through cold spots, feelings, sightings, and balls of light that people have seen.
Bachelor's Grove isn't the only haunted place in the city. Next, we went to Chicago's South Side to hear the tale of a murder and a ghost.
This is the roadway located directly in front of the Willowbrook Ballroom, where in 1931, Resurrection Mary, or a girl named Mary, who was later dubbed Resurrection Mary, was hitchhiking back home along this roadway when she was struck and killed by a hit-and-run automobile somewhere between the Willowbrook Ballroom and Resurrection Cemetery. And since 1931, she has been seen still trying to hitchhike back home from the Willowbrook to the cemetery and beyond, but she never gets beyond the cemetery.
We're at Resurrection Cemetery in South Suburban Justice, 7600 Archer Avenue. We're coming up to the main gates of the cemetery, where in August of 1976, a man traveling by the cemetery saw what appeared to be a girl locked in the cemetery after hours. When the police were dispatched to the area, they found these two bars of the cemetery gates pulled apart and bent at a very funny angle. And pressed in the bars were the impressions of fingerprints, skin texture, and scorch marks.
No one was able to give an explanation how those marks were made on the bars. Then we visited the Mount Carmel Cemetery to see the evidence of yet another haunting.
We're coming up to a very interesting grave here in this cemetery. It's called Julia Bacola Petta. Julia died in 1921 at the age of 29 of complications from childbirth, and she was buried here with her stillborn infant in this grave here at Mount Carmel Cemetery. Soon after this, her mother, Philomena Bacola, began to have a series of unexplained dreams when Julia began pleading and begging with her mother to dig up and exhume the grave. This went on for many years as the frantic mother tried to get permission from the local parish, the cemetery, and other police authorities to exhume the grave. They found Julia lying as fresh as the day she was buried, apparently no decomposition of the body whatsoever. There are two porcelain photographs on the monument now. The top one shows Julia on her wedding day holding a bouquet of roses. The bottom picture on the base of the monument shows Julia as she was found 6 years later after being dug up in a perfect state of preservation.
There isn't a reason why Julia had no signs of decomposition after 6 years. To this day, a white ghostly figure is seen roaming near her grave. Now we go to a restaurant in downtown Chicago where the Ghost Research Society found unmistakable photographic evidence of ghosts.
The first photograph shows absolutely nothing at all. The bottom photograph, taken a few seconds later after the film was wound and recocked, shows some strange light formation to the left of the bust. What appears in this photograph, if you look to the extreme left, near that table, it appears to be a semi-transparent figure of a monk-like individual, apparently cowled in a monk's habit. You can see the semi-transparent image above the table, and directly below the table, underneath the tablecloth, you can see what appears to be semi-transparent feet and legs.
This videotape was recorded by the Ghost Research Society at the stakeout of the restaurant. Listen closely. Personal accounts, recordings, and photographs. What do you think? Are the ghosts of Chicago real or unreal?
Let's say you think you might have